late coming from court, which I'll talk a little bit about more in my report. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Ash?
Here.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats? President Affelt?
Here. Any proposed changes to the agenda?
No changes, thank you.
Okay. Time for public comment on items not on the agenda.
So I was
I'm sorry.
going to recommend we do the update before we do the lease agreement.
The update on the ECCL. Okay.
Is it before already?
I thought it was before.
Let me check.
Is it? Let's.
Sorry, I just-
I'll check.
The ECC update is first.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. All right. So that
Pull up the
doesn't
agenda.
require a change. Yep. All right. So no changes to the agenda. Anything else? All right. Now we're going to do public comment. Any public comment on
Is it
items
approved,
not
Mr.
on the
President?
agenda?
Is
Sorry.
is the agenda approved?
Yes. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move.
I'll second. Any objections? Adopted by acclamation. Okay. Now we're really on the public comment. Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. Then reports. Do we have an ETA report? CSEA report? Our student representative's not here. Annie Yates Site Administrator report. Mr. Labasse, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I made a little PowerPoint.
Mr. Labasse, you might have to pull that microphone a lot closer to you so the camera picks it up.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about some things that are happening at Annie Yates, and maybe take some questions.
You'll have to physically probably bring it up. It may adjust there on the side.
This is new to me. Is this acceptable?
There you go.
There you go.
Now? Excellent. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening at Annie Yates. And one of the things that we're doing in our middle school program is
Just
Jazz
lean
and
into the
Democracy.
mic. Get as close as you can.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah. As close as
Okay.
you can to the mic. when you're done.
This is a big challenge. Jesus, technology stuff. So, yeah, okay, now I can hear it. So we're doing Jazz and Democracy, which is a middle school program. There's a organization that comes in and teaches children about jazz and its relationship to American democracy. I thought it was something very interesting and compelling, especially when they're playing jazz up in the upper floors of our school. Thought you might be interested in that. I want to let you know that we have several organizations, several groups that are occurring on campus. One of them is the Young Men's Group that Mr. Rogers does. And as you can see by this picture, this is a local band. They've made their own instruments in the class. And they're walking around campus demonstrating and making music. So it's very fun, very nice program. If you're interested in coming by and seeing that, happens on Mondays in Mr. Rogers' room. I thought we'd talk a little bit about Science Adventures for Girls. Science Adventures for Girls is an after-school program that's been going on since last year. This is our second session this year. There are 36 girls who are participating. During this session, the 36 girls, 30 of them, are approximately 30, maybe 28, have never participated before in this program. So this time we really tried to expand our outreach to get all the kids in these age groups between the ages of K all the way up to 5th grade to participate. This is the K2 group, and those are the young engineers learning about science and its relationship to engineering. It's a great program. I'm very proud of this. These little girls really shine, and I would recommend anybody stepping in and seeing them do what they do. It's a really beautiful thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about PE. We have a really tight playground, as most of us know, and the yard is busy all the time. If you look at this photograph here I took the other day, Miss Wren is out doing PE with her 5th grade class on her own, and in the background you can see Mr. Clark doing PE with the upper grades. So I wanted to get a picture that we are doing these things. It's really busy out there on the playground. Pixar continues to come into one of our classes and do reading groups. This picture was taken last week. As you can see, there's a lot of volunteers that are coming over to Pixar and reading with their reading buddies. I think that Mr. Affeld, in fact, I know Mr. Affeld has a child who's in this class, so I know he enjoys it. And, this is from today. Took this photograph today. We're working with Mills to do teacher inquiry. All of the teachers on our campus are participating in teacher inquiry to try to improve their practice. It's been very successful. There's a lot of great feedback, and our relationship with Mills College has been fantastic. Our teacher leaders who go to Mills, that we were at a meeting last week, are Mr. Waugh. You can see the back of his head right here. We also have Miss Wren comes, and Miss Lang and myself, and who am I missing? I know. Oh, Mr. Rogers is in attendance. I think that's it. Am I right about that? Yeah. And so they are the teacher leaders who are bringing this inquiry back to Anna Yates. This is some of the after-school programs. We started a new tutoring program. So this is on the entry of our school. You can see we have the stuff that's going on after school. And in many classrooms now we are offering tutoring. So parents are able to identify which teacher they want to go see and what subjects they need to have their children get some help in. And sometimes teachers are actually recommending children to come to these meetings after school. So that's going on, and that's been publicized and in our robocall as well. You're going to hear a little bit more from Mr. Kaplan later on about our safety, so I'm not going to say much about school safety, although I'm going to say one thing, that we are a lot safer, and I can demonstrate some data in our recess. Part of it has to do with the reduced amount of recess that we have, but also because of what Mr. Kaplan has done with organizing parent volunteers. And so we now have parent volunteers who participate during lunch recess and recesses in general, and this is a parent. And I don't know if you know Mr. T, Terry James. He's a new employee this year, and he's been a great addition to our playground safety. Safety committee, speaking of safety committee, I convened a safety committee to try to address some of the concerns on campus about, with safety in general, fire activities, security, those types of things. And so this committee has met a couple times, and you can see Lauren LaPlante, who's here in the room, and Lauren LaPlante's father, who's volunteering with us. He is I think, Lauren, probably you could tell me more about it, but I think he works in the field of safety. He does hostage negotiations. He works with a whole array of security issues. He was he's an ex-police or warden of a youth authority. So there's a lot of things that he's offered to us, and he's been very helpful in the conversation. And you're going to, I'm sure, hear more about this as I develop a plan. We're developing a plan this year that will feed into the ECCL. So that's one of the things that we've been working on. And with that in mind, we did an intruder drill, and maybe some of you heard it. The intruder drill had these intruders. This is our wellness staff. They do our social emotional learning, and they went out and scared children this day. No, they didn't scare them. They went to the doors and shook the doors to make sure that the doors were locked, and the lockdown activity was very good. It was I feel like it was a great success, and it identified some issues that need to be taken care of, which we're working on now. But they were very helpful in that. Let's see. And that's it. That's what I have. I also wanted to say one thing about PTO. Our PTO is becoming more and more robust. There is a lot of activity in there in the PTO. We've raised a bunch of money they've raised a bunch of money over the last couple months, and I think they're going to spend a little bit of it on the Valentine's dance on the 12th of February, which will be nice, and that will occur in this room. So, is anybody? And I wanted to open up to questions, or maybe that's it. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit more about the reading for Pixar reading?
I can say that a relationship was created by Miss Brunick. I think she reached out to Pixar, and she arranged with an individual over there. She arranged with a leader in their outreach program, and this person in that previous picture, that first person, I can get you that, Mr. Green, that person's name, but she organized the employees to come over for an hour and a half a day, and they walk over. Oh, Mr. Burns, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's a great program. Dylan really enjoys it and has become very close with his Pixar buddy, who's one of the premier graphic artists over there at Pixar. And Dylan was coming home with these pictures of strange characters that I didn't recognize, and then they all showed up in the In and Out movie.
Right.
And I think he's the voice of the imaginary boyfriend in And Out. It's Dylan's Pixar buddy. So
Woo woo.
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On the jazz dancing, how does one
Not
get?
dancing.
I'm sorry, the jazz and democracy.
Right.
How does one get involved in that? Is that an after school or is
No,
that?
that happened in the regular social studies classes for the middle school.
Okay.
For the eighth grade because they're doing
for the whole 8th grade.
Yeah, the 8th grade teachers teach American history, and so as part of American history, these fellas, they come in and play music and tie it to civil rights, a lot of immigration, the American experience, I guess. So it's beautiful.
Great. Can you go back to the slide with the after school?
That one?
Yeah, that one. So
Sure.
how so can anyone go join any of those groups, or how does a student or a parent get there? I mean, if you want to,
If you wanna go
to English Social Studies Mod 1 Dean on Thursday, is that?
So Miss Dean will be the teacher in there. She's going to work with anybody who's dropped off. It's a drop-in type of situation.
At any grade level?
At any grade level.
Oh.
Well, unless it says, and as you can see, there's a couple up there that are for 6th through 8th grade. That's Mr. Rogers on Mondays. So he's providing some tutoring there. And the reason it's on the whiteboard, just so everybody knows, is it's changing. And we're trying to increase that. And I think as we do that, I know that in I'm just going to confess, in Mr. Beatty's class, there was way too many kids for him to effectively address all their needs. So as more teachers become interested and want to do this list is going to expand, and I think that there will be there'll be more opportunities. But to answer your question, yes, you can just drop him. You can just drop your child off and pick them up at 4:15.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions?
I think this is great. What are we doing to encourage teachers to expand the program?
I think we're paying them, quite frankly. Am I wrong, Dr. Rubio? You could probably speak to that as well. So we're paying them. There's a stipend that is part of the LCAP for teacher tutoring. So we're using those funds for that purpose.
And then I was curious as to, I appreciate you coming and doing this, but why is Ms. Lang not presenting it?
I gave Ms. Langen the option to sometimes have Mr. Labasse come instead of her when we created the schedule for the spring. So
Got it.
I left it up to her. And we're happy to see you, Ms. Lang,
I hope so. All right. Thank you very much.
And thank you, by the way, because as you started to mention, that's the tutoring piece is in our LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan, And so I think we're all appreciative to see our LCAP actions starting to develop and come into fruition. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labasse. The superintendent's report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I have just a few things to report out on. Recently, Ms. Harrell and I have been meeting with the CSEA bargaining team, and we've had a number of productive meetings. So I'd like to say thank you to Ms. Parham and the CSEA bargaining team for very productive and professional meetings. The other item I'd like to report on is that we had a great meeting here Monday evening. We had Sarah Stillman and Miles Green come, and we had a video conference with a team of about 6 professors from Yale University with ourselves, School District of Philadelphia, a school district in Oklahoma, a school district on a Navajo reservation, and 2 school districts in Delaware. And that is part of the Yale's commitment. As you know, our partnership with Yale's commitment is to work with public school districts to help improve the practice of teaching and give teachers the ability to really dig into the Common Core and other areas with their professors and have access to Yale's private collection of primary sources and library and some of their facilities. So we had teachers from Berkeley Unified because we have offered and reached out to expand our partnership with Berkeley on this. And we had a teacher from Oakland Unified as well. And Ms. Stillman said it was the most successful meeting they've ever had. So it was a great step in the process for us with Yale. So I thought I would update everybody on that as that application process is now in process. And I should say this for everyone here in the room and anyone listening on the video that I think there's about a week left to turn those applications in if anyone is interested in participating in the Yale National Initiative as a teacher for 2 weeks in the summer. Yale pays for the travel, the expenses. I've been told by teachers they feel like they're back in college again. They're on a meal plan, and it's very reinvigorating for them as teachers. So, and the last thing I think I wanted to report on is that we had a very, as we have had for a while, for a number of months, a very effective cabinet meeting recently. And I'd like to take a moment to thank Ms. Dunn and Ms. McDonald for helping us get started on a lot of the preliminary conversations for the potential move to ECCL. So we're working on that, and we're developing out what our conversations and, what our planning and our communication needs to be to the teachers. So we're working on that right now. And teachers will be hearing more about that very soon. And I think that's the 3 things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have a Director of Instruction report.
Good evening. I wanted to highlight just a couple things that I'm currently working on that are pretty major projects. In 2010, as you know, the state adopted the Common Core standards. In 2011, in light of the Common Core standards, the state wanted new English language development standards because the rigor of the Common Core was so much greater. So they developed new ELD standards over the course of the last few years. The difficulty with having, the potential difficulty was that here's now a new set of standards to add on top of the Common Core. But the great thing about the new ELD standards is that they, rather than adding something new, they really help teachers teach the literacy standards from the Common Core better. So, but trying to wrap our brains around the new ELD standards and getting teachers to digest them and understand them, that's always the big task. So I wanted to just take a minute just to tell you real quick that there are 2 main parts to the new ELD standards that really help prepare our ELD students specifically, but all students in the Common Core. One is that it teaches them to interact in meaningful ways, and the second part is that it teaches them the structure, how English works. But it's not just grammar, it's what is the structure of a text, which is what we have to do all the time in reading. How do you expand your ideas, and then how do you present your ideas that you have? So, and then interacting in meaningful ways, the first part of the 2 sections helps students to collaborate with others. It helps them to dig in and interpret texts and what they're reading and what they're hearing, and then it helps them communicate. So we, Miss Miller and I, worked, mostly Miss Miller, on a professional development plan around these standards, and we have been working with teachers. I think a couple of people in the room have done this training, to sit with them in for half-day trainings to look at the standards and to work through them so that teachers would have a chance to see how they really do apply to the reading and literacy that they're already doing for their kids. So we've had 4 sessions so far with grade level teams at the sites, and it's about the most meaningful PD I've done in many, many years, because we have such extended time together and a lot of time to think. So I'm excited about the ELD standards just in and of themselves as much as I was about the Common Core. So that's good news. I'm really excited that Ms. Miller and I developed a way to have teachers, and that Ms. Langen was really supportive in helping us do that. So that's really exciting. In conjunction with that, we also need new ELA curriculum to align with the Common Core. And so we have started a ELA adoption committee, and some people that are on that are here as well. And we started looking at curriculum on Monday. We had our first preliminary meeting to look at the evaluation tool that we are using. It's super rigorous. And so you won't make it through this evaluation if you don't have really rich, complex texts and questions that are text dependent and all the things that we need for Common Core. So we've started doing that, and the great thing, California has just been really doing some great things in education. This is another one of them, that they adopted curriculum that included the new ELD standards. So they have, rather than us getting ELA curriculum and then having to supplement to get ELD, we're looking at curriculum that has all of it combined. And since they're so interwoven, it's very exciting for us. We are used to, as teachers, pulling from all these different sources, and now we possibly don't have to. So those are 2 things that are, I think, making a big impact in terms of instruction and practice. And I wanted to share them with you. Questions?
Are there set ELA Common Core texts that you're reviewing? My impression was that it is more of a picking and choosing different source materials to put together a comprehensive curriculum.
We are not picking and choosing to put together a system right now. We went through, first of all, California's adoption list and looked at those curriculums. Some of them didn't make the cut just by virtue of them being only tablet-based or something like that, that at this point we don't have the capacity for. And then we are also looking at curriculum that's not on that adopted list, because as you know, we can use funds to buy curriculum if we have a group of teachers that are using it that have accepted that for adoption. And the good news is, I know when I talked about this before, I was saying I thought the days of the single curriculum were gone, and that it would be more putting together things. I'm very pleasantly surprised, and the people on the committee could maybe speak to this, but there are some. They're really good because they're based on balanced literacy, and balanced literacy has so many different components to it. So they have done a good job. The publishers have done a good job at creating aligned material. So, so it seems like we're on a good path.
Okay.
It's exciting, yeah.
And ELD is, do you have a timeline for when you think everyone is going to be done with the ELD, at least round 1 of training?
So we have round 1, and then we have a second round where we're putting everybody through. So it's 2 trainings, so that everybody will have had a whole day. So that'll be done at the end of March. And then that goes into we'll have to do training on ELA come the end of the year, and then next year, and we'll fold in the ELD standards as well.
Okay. Other questions?
You mentioned that the tablet-based curriculum was a challenge. What is the challenge with using that curriculum? Didn't you say there were some of the curriculum we couldn't use because it was, did I mishear that?
Some of it, part of it's just capacity that you have to have. Everybody has to have tablets that are touch screen that can be used. So that's one thing. Getting the curriculum, getting a tablet here from the publishers is a difficulty, because you can't put the curriculum through the evaluation tool if you don't have a tablet loaded with the curriculum. So that we don't have anything so far. There are two, Amplify and System of Courses from Pearson are both tablet based. So we don't have those because we just don't have the curriculum
You
here.
can skip the Amplify. I don't know the Pearson product, but I do know the Amplify one. So they're not apps as much as they are actual contained devices. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's where I was unclear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. President's report. Very briefly, I reported last time about a upcoming important case that I was a lead counsel on. It's the reason I'm late. We were several hours at the Court of Appeal today, the State Court of Appeal, where we are arguing the state has a duty to constitutionally sufficiently fund our public school system, and it's falling down on that duty. And we got thrown out of the lower court, and we're now asking the higher court to say, there is such a right, we can't ask for adequate funding, and we ought to have a trial about it. And we'll know in 90 days what the court says, but it was a very good discussion, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we might see a different outcome in the Court of Appeal. We're now on to the consent calendar. Would anyone like to pull any items off the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull warrants.
Warrants. I had a question on the field trip. Any other items? All right, let's vote on the other items. 5.2 is the minutes of the January 13th meeting. 5.3 is the minutes of the special meeting of the January 21st. 5.4 is the amendment to the administrative regulations.
So I move approval of those three items.
Second the motion.
Roll call.
Member Ash?
Yes.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Sorry, yes.
President Effel?
Yes, so the motion carries unanimously. Warrants, Mr. Pats?
So just, and I'm sorry I didn't get these to you in advance. I've been quite busy at work. But can you explain the warrant for $5,118.75 to the City of Oakland Central Collections?
I would be, I could take a stab at it, but I'm concerned about my accuracy on it. My sense of it is that, if I recall correctly, and Ms. Tamer, you may remember as well, is it some old bills from 2013-14, I believe? Yeah, it's hard without Dora Sue in the room, and I'm sorry without getting that in advance from you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
I believe, it's okay. I believe that, because I do recall some bills coming in for the use of recreation spaces during the ECCL move, temporary location at Santa Fe. They came in that we weren't aware of. There were a number of arrangements made by previous staff for space, and some of them we do stop and ask and look at these over, because obviously seeing something come in that's old, and again, that's my guess of what it is not something that we take lightly, and we do check it out. So, but that's my guess, that these were some old bills that we didn't know about, some arrangements that were made, and those bills we didn't hear from the city for quite some time, and suddenly we got the bill, and I believe that's what this is.
So collections just means their accounts receivable. It doesn't mean we're in default.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. And then the last item on the list is a check made out to you. And I think I mentioned this last time. It gives me pause when we're writing very large checks to individuals.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that we should have some sort of reimbursement limits. And then you in particular, I believe, have a district credit card. So it seems to me we should question when we see a almost $4,000 check written to an individual.
Sure. Would you like to know what it is?
Yes, please.
during the December holiday break, the district transitioned away from, or just before that time, I believe it was the time we were transitioning away from, I forget the name of the bank, which bank we moved to, and we left one bank, moved to another bank, and we changed our banking entities and credit cards. And so, unfortunately, when we got back on January 3rd or 4th, whenever we came back, in a mail that was being held up or that was stacking up during the December break, we found a bill that was due in several days. So there was not sufficient funds to pay that bill in our revolving account quickly without incurring a penalty with the bank. I did a favor and wrote a check and paid that bill for the district, and then I was reimbursed for it. So it's not a common practice we're in, but that's what that check was.
Okay, you used the term bill. What was the bill for?
It was the current statement that was due for the credit card.
Okay.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be something you see very often on our warrants.
Yeah, it's a very large amount, and it's
Yeah.
not itemized, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Mr. Pats?
No, that'll do it.
Anything else in warrants? Any public comment on the warrants item? Do we have a motion to adopt the warrants?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Member Ash?
Yes.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Yes.
President Ethel?
Yes. All right, the motion carries unanimously. Our next item is on the consent item, approval of overnight field trip to South Lake Tahoe for the senior class. I see Mr. Burns is here. Maybe I just had one question on if you could come up, and that is I see 2 chaperones for, it looks like 25 students. And the question is that sufficient number of chaperones? And
I counted 3.
I think you indicated you were looking for another chaperone.
Yes, we are.
Is there an update on that, or you're still
We're
looking?
still looking.
Do you think you'll have 3 by the time of the trip?
We should. It depends on the number of students that we have. So far, we have 12, and we're looking for 8 more. So if we get those 8 more,
I see.
we'll be able to find another chaperone.
Okay, the document said you had 25, but that's an upper estimate?
Yeah.
Got it.
We actually needed 25, and the kids actually volunteered and said we want to go, but then we ended up with 20.
I see.
And now we're waiting on the other 8 out of the 12 that we have to make their decision.
All right, but if you have 20, you'll have 3 chaperones, is what you're saying?
Yes, we will.
All right, great. Any other questions for Mr. Burns? All right.
I'm sorry, if you have 12 and you have both genders, are you going to find a female chaperone? Or
We have a female, myself, and another teacher and his wife.
And his wife, okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Any other? Thank you, Mr. Burns.
You're welcome.
Any public comment on this item? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the overnight field trip?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ash?
Yes.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Yes.
President Ethel?
Yes. The motion carries unanimously. And we are on to our first discussion item, which is item 6.1, Superintendent.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to say a couple of things about Mr. Jeff Kaplan before he begins, to let you know a little bit more about him. I had the distinct pleasure of working with and meeting Jeff a number of years ago in Santa Cruz when I was working down there, and I'm always happy to continue contact with really great educators out there over the years, and this has been one of the great things knowing Mr. Kaplan. He is the founding director of the Common Language Program, which has reached over 300,000 parents, teachers, and students across California. He's taught in public schools for over 25 years. He attended Stanford and received his multicultural teaching credential from UCSC. The Common Language Program has received the San Mateo County School Board Association Award for exemplary school climate and violence prevention programs. And I just want to add that Jeff also, on a personal note, grew up with 2 mothers and is a strong ally around LGBT issues. He's a bilingual coach and presenter and a member of the International Bullying Prevention Association. He's helped schools and districts really make use of innovative funding sources to create positive and inclusive learning communities, and I'm happy that we have him again this year. Mr. Kaplan, take us away.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you all here, and thank you for the opportunity to present this information about what we've been doing here at Annie Yates School in terms of bullying. And as you probably know, bullying is something that came up in our LCAP goals, and so we're really focused on LCAP and showing improvement over the years. I'm going to present three things tonight. The first one is the results of a student survey. We really went down and said to the students, what are you experiencing? What are you seeing? The second thing is, based on that, we identified areas that we needed to work on and gave a large amount of training and developed new procedures with staff, with students, and with parents. And then we've got some initial results and some recommendations for the future, and so I'll just go ahead and feel free to answer your questions. The first thing we found out was that about half the students said that yes, they had experienced some form of bullying in the prior 2 months to the survey. And also very importantly was the fact that many of them, about 30%, said sometimes I see other kids getting bullied and I know I should do something about it and I'm not doing anything about it. These are the kids who are the nucleus of what will change the culture at our school. They're what we call the potential upstanders, because if we can get them to shift from knowing what they should do and not doing anything to knowing and doing something, that's really what motivates a change in school culture. The most frequent place that students reported was the playground, and that wasn't a surprise to us, because both teachers and students suggested that there were a number of things going on in our playgrounds that really needed addressing. Clear rules were not in place for all the areas. Kids were doing all kinds of different things at different times. There were not a lot of organized activities or equipment for students to make use of during recess. We were missing out on some of our Peace Path trained leaders. And then supervision practices among adults varied greatly. Their abilities to communicate with the office, to be seen. There's obviously many students out there who are taller than the adults, so sometimes you don't know who to go to for help. And then the other key piece was the end of recess sometimes just didn't really make it. Then we really looked at our transition practices and talked about how can we help kids know that when the bell rings, it's not the time to go start second recess in the bathroom, it's the time to get back to class. So Diane Lang, our principal, formed a positive playground recess improvement committee. And this was specifically to focus on standardized rules and procedures in what we call the PBIS style, Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. I'll be mentioning this acronym a number of times, and where we really started focusing in our school in PBIS style is on playground. I'll be suggesting at the end that it's something we might want to look at in other places in the school. So we got clear expectations for every area in the yard. We updated the equipment. We trained parents to volunteer out on the yard, and we improved the transitions. One thing that we did so that we have a common language throughout the whole school is one of our parents volunteered, and we put together, I directed a video, a music video, for all the for all the students to watch about what is appropriate behavior and what's not appropriate behavior on the playground. So I'm going to play about a minute of that right now. We'll start out about halfway through demonstrating teachers doing what's not appropriate. Students then get to have a little sense of humor, but also point out exactly what's not right. Then you'll see us transitioning into examples of what is appropriate behavior on the playground. There we go. You may recognize some of the people in this room.
There's the best. There's Mr. Pippin.
We teach many skills at Emery. And if you want to see more, we'll send you a link so you can have a copy and show it at your house
Yeah,
over
please do.
and over like we are.
I've been hearing about this video for a while.
Great, yeah.
Please do send a link.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, you know, it shows students in leadership roles doing positive behavior and being very clear about what our expectations are. So it's a great tool for reinforcing common language throughout the whole school. And only one teacher got hurt in the making. But it did not require a workman's comp case, so we're good. All right. From there, we went into kind of a deep training of staff in bullying prevention, identification, and intervention, so that all students and staff know how to recognize, report, and respond to bullying situations. And then beyond that, those were workshops that I gave to cafeteria workers, to teachers. Beyond that, every staff member is either currently taking or has completed an online training, bullying prevention unit. So Dr. Rubio made a very firm request that there be student training school-wide in bullying prevention and intervention, because in the past we'd really worked with this idea of upstanders, that we can change a school culture by looking at that 30% of students who know what they should be doing and aren't doing it because they're afraid or they don't know exactly how to do it. So we had student kickoff assemblies after teachers have been trained. We went into kindergartens and gave specific kindergarten practices because there is bullying in kindergarten. And then we also retrained students to be out on the playground to solve peer problems. It turns out most conflicts between kids aren't bullying. Most of them are peer problems. So we needed to make sure that we had a way to solve the majority of those problems. Then another level that we went into was just really working, that I went into, is really working with our administrators and also with Lauren LaPlante, because so many of the kids who get involved in conflicts or get involved in bullying need direct one-on-one communication and coaching from these leaders at our school. So I did quite a bit of modeling. How do we handle this? How do we handle teaching kids to manage their anger? How do we handle peer-to-peer conflicts? How do we handle bullying conflicts? In this way, they can be leaders. I also did some modeling of speaking with Spanish-speaking parents who were talking about conflicts that were going back to the streets in the neighborhoods and just saying, you know what, we solved this at school. Here's how you can support it at home and reduce violence in the neighborhood. And parents were very grateful for that kind of communication taking place in Spanish. The next thing I did was give 3 workshops, and some of you may have attended them, on bullying prevention. They kind of have a big title, Bully-Proofing Your Kid. And I think that's one thing that got parents to show up, was like, you can bully-proof, we can bully-proof, okay, show me how. And so the cornerstone of that was this book, Simon's Hook. And the theory is that people who are bullying, kids who are bullying, first go out and test other kids to see if they're a good target, if they can get them to be upset, if they can hook them with put-downs and name-calling. So what we did was practice the skills in this book with parents at the workshop so that they can basically make their kids not a good target for bullying. So I'd like to present each one of you with a copy of this book tonight to take home, use with your kids, family members, whoever you'd like to. I'd give it to you now, but then you wouldn't listen to the rest of my presentation. So Lisa's going to give it to you at the end. And yes, there is an extra one for he or she who will be named. Then we went further and said, you know, there's some bullying and prejudice against kids who are different at our school, and we really need to nip it in the bud. We really need to talk to the parents who are moving into our school in kindergarten and say, welcome to public school. There's a lot of diversity here, and we want you to know that we've got kids with learning disabilities, with language challenges, on the autism scale and spectrum, and we accept everyone here. There's a lot of diversity, and we don't pick on anyone. And yes, this may seem strange to you coming from your family where you didn't have this diversity, perhaps, in your family. So welcome to Annie Yates, welcome to public school, and this is how you can support your kid to notice how different the kids are in their class and to not pick on them. So we've done that last year and this year, and we think it's something we'd like to continue each year. Parent evaluations of these workshops were very successful, so successful that many of them volunteered to help out on the playground. That's my favorite evaluation. Dr. Rubio also mandated social emotional learning, SEL, and that this be implemented K through 8. This is basically kind of the base of the iceberg, if you will. Bullying is the top of the iceberg, conflict resolution is the middle, and having kids have the social skills to work with each other, to disagree respectfully, etc., this is the bottom part. And this is a challenge in this time of Common Core and all the things that teachers are being required to teach. I think this was a very brave mandate on his part to say, you know what, we're also going to make sure all of our kids learn social and emotional skills. So I went into every classroom and gave demonstration lessons. I bribed teachers with lunch afterwards if they would give a demonstration back to me. We had coaching and basically just relaunched Second Step, a curriculum that we'd already purchased but really wasn't being taught that much. We relaunched it. And so we're seeing positive results. We're able to track who's where in teaching the curriculum, and we're just really seeing kids have better skills, both in the classroom and on the playground. We made a request to Pixar also, and so they made this movie up for us. And wouldn't you know, it really focuses on the exact same thing that Dr. Rubio had requested, social and emotional skills. So we're now using that as a way to continue to motivate kids with pop culture to be able to manage themselves in challenging situations. Now, we talked in Recess Committee, and Recess Committee has been meeting on and off throughout the year to basically, like I said, take a PBIS approach to helping recess, smooth out recess problems. And one thing that came up was this year we saw some factors that really were going to challenge the work we had done last year and that we were putting into play this year. We saw an increase of 60 students on the playground. We saw a decrease of playground supervision. We saw a decrease in recess time. You might think that would be less conflicts, but it's not. If kids don't have the time to get their yayas out, they get more compressed. And then we saw a decrease in available play space because of our PE program. So all these factors had us kind of on the edge of our seats, like how are things going to go? Are we going to see more conflicts with this kind of compression of time and space? Or is the work that we put in going to pay off? And so we've done our first round of surveys through teachers over the fall, and 100% of the teachers have reported either a leveling off or a decrease, marked decrease in bullying on the playground and the classroom compared with last year. So that's really good. And why, we asked in the survey, they think it's because students are standing up for each other. And that's what we were looking for. That's the cultural shift that we need to make. So there are a couple of recommendations, 5 actually. First one is that we now get the data from students. What are they seeing out on the playground? What are they experiencing? Are they saying, yes, I do stand up for people now, when last year I didn't? Second thing would be to continue to support teachers and parents and students to report bullying incidents when they see them. Because that whole code of silence is something that we've been working to break so that people come up and say, no, I saw it, and I want to, either I can stand up and say, leave him alone, or I can call for help from an adult. We'd like to recommend continued coaching and support of teachers to implement Second Step and in the emotional learning curriculum. And then just maintain a high level of supervision and parent volunteer capacity, skills that parents have on the playground. And then the last piece, we see the Recess Committee as a model that we could then extend for the rest of this year into a PBIS approach, if the board agrees, for helping the rest of the school run smoothly and helping the rest of the school have clear procedures and ways to support students. At the onset, we noticed that the high school was doing this. The high school has a committee, and we don't. And as we look towards merging our campuses, our 2 faculties and all our students next year, we're really looking towards more success if both schools have this PBIS approach. Obviously, you guys may want to do some more research and have more presentations on it, but a lot of the work that I have been doing in classroom instruction is kind of level 1. Level 2 is more of the work that Lauren LaPlante does, and working with specific kids, and then level 3 is the kids who really need our extra time. So it's a big piece, but we're being successful with it on the recess, and we think there's a great opportunity to extend that with some support, obviously, for the teachers who give extra time to do that in other aspects of the school. So yeah, I'm very grateful to be working with you. It's a wonderful opportunity to continue to work with Dr. Rubio and to work with your teachers, and I'm glad to see you all tonight, and open to questions and public comment.
Okay, questions for Mr. Kaplan?
I don't have a question. I just have loads of compliments. I love this. I'm the crybaby at the table, and I'm always socially, emotionally driven. And this just, I mean, I started crying to the music video. Like, who does that? It's just, I am bursting with pride, and just I think it's great. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the definition of bullying that?
Good question.
Yeah.
The definition of bullying that the district is using has 3 components, and it's important for all of us to know because students have conflicts, adults have conflicts, you know, relationships, we have conflicts. And conflicts are a normal part of life. And what's important is we learn the skills for solving them. What's not okay and what's not normal is bullying. And bullying has 3 aspects to it. The first one is that somebody is being mean to someone else. The second one is that somebody has more power than someone else, or it's a group. And the third one is that it's repeated or has the potential to be repeated. So, for example, maybe you tell your son or daughter to clean their room. That you have more power. And do they do it the first time? No. So you have to tell them again. So that's more power and repeated. Is it bullying? No, not unless you're mean about it. So the point is it's important for us, and this is what all the teachers have been doing and the administrators, is really being able to clearly identify what's bullying and what's peer conflict and be able to respond appropriately.
I thought I remember from the parent training that I went to something about using intimidation or trying to intimidate.
Sure.
Um,
And so intimidation
does
would be
that play?
one of those power over situations, if that,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, and in terms of my comment, it does seem to be making a difference, at least from my personal anecdotal observation.
Great.
There, I think even a few years ago, was not a coherent bullying plan or anti-bullying plan or practices or culture or vocabulary at the school site, and that attention to bullying was ad hoc, complaints of parents, and did they get responses from the administration or the teacher? Not necessarily. So you're trying to reduce the incidents that even get to that level.
Exactly.
First of all, and I've seen Dylan come home with a new vocabulary about bullying that I didn't have going to school at any point, and using it and reflecting on his day and reflecting on times he might have felt bullied or he saw something else, and not even at school. It might be on TV or in a movie or something. So I appreciate that. That seems to be hitting home, and there has been, we at least had one serious incident involving my son, and all I can say is that it was dealt with effectively.
Great.
There were other kids involved, but Ms. Lang responded, Mr. Labasse responded, the teacher was quite involved, and the students were addressed. So both at the sort of tier 1 and up to the tier 2 and 3 levels, I've experienced incidents, and it seems to be making a difference. So thank you for the work that you and all the teachers are doing to implement that. In terms of the next steps, it seems like you're suggesting a expansion, continue growing at Annie Yates, and you said there is a committee at the high school.
Yes.
So are you saying the expansion is to integrate, or to carry some of the program and build it out at the high school and integrate? Or
There are 2 levels that we talk about. One would be to have a PBIS committee at Annie Yates, because we don't have one currently.
Okay.
So we've had a small recess committee doing PBIS type activities. So it'd be to expand, find teachers, give them some stipend to participate and start that planning process. And it's the kind of process that takes a while, multiple years to get everybody on board, develop procedures, et cetera. And so ESS has already started this. So that would be one thing, so that when we move together, we'd obviously have a common language.
And do you know if the teachers are in support of
It's a good
of
question.
doing that, or where's the school community and parents?
We've I feel like Lauren knows the answer to this. We've done surveys. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done surveys and we've asked this question. And again, teachers, yeah, exactly. Teachers are excited about what's been happening and have asked for more. So, yeah.
And we can maybe hear more about that in the public comment.
Great. And so at that point, we just need to support the teachers to be able to do the work.
Mhm.
Because we paid teachers a stipend to attend the PBIS, to attend the recess committee, and I bribed them with food and, basically.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so then that is my next question is what is it for the board and the district to do to support that? And it sounds like you're saying put that in the LCAP, add it on top of, or continue what the investment that we have been making in our
Yeah,
in our LCAP
yeah,
plan.
exactly. I think we'll need some outside help. Usually, districts get some kind of consultant in to help develop the process, because
Mhm.
it is a very clear process.
Isn't that you or?
I'm here 2 days a week, and it's not me. My
Mhm.
focus, I'm very effective at running the meetings and motivating people on site, but PBIS isn't my specialty.
Mhm.
My specialty is making the meetings effective and kind of integrating the teacher support and teacher activities. So I think we're looking at somebody else who's specific as that laser beam focus of PBIS. And then my role would be taking that and making it, cultivating it, and making it so that teachers are effective in getting that work done, and we're able to report it back. So that's, in any
Okay,
case, the way I
that's
see it.
helpful.
Yeah.
Other questions from, Mr. Mayor?
Just one question. How much aware are you of the new site, and if you are aware of some things that are going on at the new ECCL, is there a room for adjustment, or have you recognized any difference between the two sites?
I'm not that aware of the new site, and so that would be something that, after this, if you request, I could become more aware of the new site. Obviously, we do talk about space considerations. I think everybody does. And so when we look at integrating all those students at the different age levels, we just want to look at how can we help them recreate and rejuvenate, have recess, et cetera, in a way that's supportive to everyone. So, yeah. Is that kind of what you're
Yes.
thinking about? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I'll add, if you don't mind, to the board that we have, Ms. McDonald and I have met with Hannah Acevedo, who's a PBIS expert, to start that conversation in terms of potential next steps in planning for PBIS as well.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
I think I'll piggyback on what Member Ash said. I do think the explicit instruction in social emotional is just critical. I think all of the research tells us that, and I do think it's really important that we set up a PBIS or PBIP, however you want to do it. And I think that you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be from you and from the outside. It has to come from the teachers and the school site and be really something that everybody buys into. I do ask that we don't use the phrase bribe the teachers.
Fair enough.
It implies we're getting them to do something they wouldn't normally do. It's just a matter of prioritizing it. And I think I think they're, as Lauren said, they're really excited to participate in this. I know from my years of teaching, we always want a plan. We always want to know what the system is. We always want to know that it's consistent. And so again, I want to say thank you. I'm curious, how involved are we doing it with pupil services and involving our special ed pupil service director? Because I think, to me, that's the typical point person in any district for PBIS. So I don't know if that's to you or to Dr. Rubio.
I think it's
Either way, I mean, I know Mr. LaPlante, who works also partially out of that department, works closely with Mr. Kaplan. I haven't been part of the meetings with Ms. Steele and her staff, so I don't know if this is sometimes part of their meeting conversations, but that's the extent of what I know right now. Unless Mr. Kaplan has something to add.
not at this point. Do you want to add anything else? Okay. We're seeing our success with the recess committee, and we're saying, hey, ESS is moving in this direction. If you guys want us to move in this direction, let's do it, because we're riding the wave, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that that's the person who makes sure these things are district-wide is the person who has the pupil services thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we have you come? You do have to come up here, and while you're coming up, are there any other board member comments? Or Mr. Pats, did you have more questions? Or
No,
comments?
I'm good. This is where I was at.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move to public comment. But you can append this to the
First of
item.
all, I wanted to thank Jeff and Lauren because PBIS has been something that's on the agenda of wellness for many years, and we've tried to integrate it, not because the school didn't want it, not because the teachers didn't want it, but we lacked maybe having one particular person who could help us to not only get bullying and everything else that social emotional learning and everything else done within the system, and we are doing that now. A lot of it has to do with funding. A lot of it has to do with the concentration of having one person pay attention to just that versus that and this and this and this. And wellness has always worked very, very closely with special ed because we know that a lot of programs for students start there and move forward. So we've been doing that kind of on both sides. So we're very excited to hear that the board is interested, and the teachers have always been interested, and I have been always interested, along with Lauren, who heads our psychological counseling and social services component, to move this forward in a concise and integrated way. So that's what we're trying to do, and I'm glad we've made it there, because for a long time we couldn't even figure out how to get to Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 until everybody got used to it. And like Jeff said, it takes time. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, explaining that to people, letting them know what that means, how people integrate into it. So I'm very pleased with the conversations that we're having now. And thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Okay, do we have other public comment on this item? Ms. Miles and Ms. Bai.
Good afternoon, Board. Audrey Miles, TK Kinder. I just want to thank Jeff because I was definitely a recipient of the program that happened where TK parents got a opportunity to train and understand the program that talks about differences in students and what bullying was. We had the opportunity one evening to spend time with about 25 parents who are TK parents and talk to them. And the reason that this happened was because we did have some new parents who were resistant to being in an inclusion classroom. I think this is something that we as a small district are going to see as a consistent problem. If we're bringing in new TK and kindergarten parents, I think that this should be something that happens at the beginning of the year. Then I think we did it in, was it December, Jeff, or November? It was really effective. As far as us being bribed to do it, I was neither paid, but supported it. I came in and helped. Ms. Dunn provided refreshments that I fixed for the parents, and we had babysitting available for those parents. At that time, we went over the process of what it was when children are having differences because they don't understand different children and different things that are going on with students, the way they act. And some of that had to do with special ed. Some of it also had to do with some of our families that might be LBGT, okay? And so we as a school community said that that's something that's important to us. And Jeff did it, and it was Ms. Rhodes, Ms. Pestovitz, and Jeff and I who did this meeting. It happened last year, but this year with the TK class having a large portion of children who are in an inclusion program, it was important for regular ed parents to understand that yes, we have students in our class that may have special needs, but this is how, when your student is talking to you, you need to address it in an empathetic way instead of, and be able to understand what the student is going through. So I'm hoping that next year, when we do bring in the TK class or bring in the new kindergarten class, that this is something that we do at the beginning of the year, or we do it as a, what do you call it? I'm brain dead right now. When we come in at the beginning of the year before school starts, when we, orientation, thank you. And because the parents were very receptive, They had lots of questions. They were very engaged. And the program that he did with them was very interactive. So he gave several scenarios that showed different things that could have been perceived as bullying, but ended up being that students didn't understand that special needs children may touch more or may have different behaviors, okay? And so the parents left the room feeling very empowered to go back and talk to their students, and they no longer felt like, well, this is a problem because my student is in this classroom. They were very receptive, and now we have a very cohesive class of parents and students that work well together, and they come in and they volunteer, and they have an understanding of special needs and general ed students. So I'm very appreciative to Mr. Kaplan. Thank you.
Ms. Smiles, I had a question for you, because I did mean to ask about the LGBT differences and how that, whether that is addressed, so I'm glad you said that.
It wasn't directly addressed, but we talked about differences.
Mhm.
We talked about kids who families don't look the same.
Mhm.
We talked about student behavior that doesn't look the same. And when a kid brings home a question in reference to specific behaviors, giving the parent the opportunity to address it in a positive manner and be able to you may not explain to a 5-year-old specific LBGT issues or concerns, but you explain that we accept differences in our community and that we're all one cohesive group and that we work together and stand who we are as individuals, and that I'm different, you're different, but we are in a school community and that we work together. So it was more on that level than specifically addressing, and I don't even think, Jeff, we didn't even say special needs. We didn't. We talked about just understanding differences in our students, understanding differences in our community, and being able to work together cohesively to help our children understand differences.
Okay.
Okay.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Bai, I think you were next.
Connie Bai, first grade, Anna Yates. So I kind of want to speak a little bit about what Jeff has done for my class and my teaching experience. This is my second official year at as a teacher and at Anna Yates. So my class was the very first class that did the kindergarten last year, doing the parent meeting, and I was really nervous. What I saw out of the parents were things like, well, that kid's touching, and we did have a few special needs in my class at that time, and that's how this had come about. And we kind of invited all of the parents and said, okay, you're going to learn about how to talk to your child and what to say. And one of the things I found was the parents were like, even with the script, what do I say? Wait, how? So they realized that the kids who are going through this social emotional training second step, it's hard for them, just like it can be hard for the parents. So I was also a pilot for the, in addition to second step, I really enjoy it and having a common language. And when I go out to the playground as part of yard duty, I can tell the students, okay, it sounds like you're having a strong feeling. What are the steps where you're having a problem? Let's do STEP. What's S? You say the problem. Let's T. So I can guide them no matter if they're my student or not. In addition, I was also I've been a pilot for the bullying prevention program, the bullying prevention unit, and the child protection unit, which is also, I guess, a segment of second step, because I finished the second step, and it was really empowering just to teach these students, this is how you become safe, this is how you use your hands, this means stop, to show them like respect. So I've gotten a lot working with Jeff Kaplan. He's always available whenever, even by text message. I can say, okay, I have this problem. What do you suggest? So, and we have a lot of different challenges within our classroom, but it would even be more challenging if it weren't for the help of the second step and then going through having it planned for me, because sometimes I don't know how to adjust some of these problems.
All right. Thank you very much. Helpful. Other public comment? That it? Other comment on this item? Okay. All right. Well, this is not an action item, just information, but I want to thank Mr. Kaplan and the teachers coming out to explain. Ms. LaPlante, nothing to add? It's all been said. All right, that's good to know. All right. Again, thank you for coming out, and we'll, I have a feeling, be revisiting this issue when we come around to the LCAP conversation.
May I add one thing?
Oh,
if you don't-
please do.
I just want to say thank you also, because it's a real honor for me to be part of this community and to watch all of you as Anna Yates and as well as our secondary school. But right now, in terms of the work you're talking about at Anna Yates, improve and improve and improve for our students and their welfare. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're on to item 6.2, which is the ECCL update. Superintendent?
Good evening. We have, again, Mr. John Baker with us for our normal ECCL update. Mr. Baker, good evening. Thanks for being here. And you guys are welcome to stay or go, whatever you're comfortable with. So please stay if you want, and please, if you need to go, we understand.
Good evening. I wish I had a great video to show like that cool one we saw from Mr. Kaplan's presentation, but I do have photographs of kids playing basketball in the gym, so maybe that'll be somewhat as good. Here's our, I'm here for the monthly update. Again, want to orient everyone on you'll hear me talk about buildings A, B, C, D, and E. Again, here's an aerial rendering of the project. Building A is the community building at the corner of 53rd and San Pablo. Building B is the administration building along San Pablo. Building C is the K-8 school and multi-use room in the middle of the site. Building D is the high school at the corner of 47th and San Pablo. And Building E is the gym and pool. First thing I want to start off with, and some of this, I presented much of this to the city schools group a couple weeks ago, so I apologize if I'm being repetitive. Our next big task, now that the kids are using the gym, is high school completion. I just want to kind of walk everyone through the steps we're working on right now. This, again, the elevator stair deck structure, which provides accessibility, actually allows you to access the classrooms, was delayed due to the underground utility issues from East Bay Mud. And that delay was from, that period was between February and August of last year. The current contract substantial completion date for Turner remains at April 27th. We are holding off on certain parts of the work for certain particular reasons. The exterior walls of the deck have to be built after the deck is built. Operable window units, we're putting those in when we do the rest of those, so we avoid a remobilization charge. Ceilings we've held off on those because we're going to put all the ceilings in at the same time to save a remobilization charge. And the wood doors and casework and flooring, we've held off putting those in because the building's not conditioned yet, and there are issues of humidity and temperature. We don't want to put wood doors and casework in when it's cold and some more damp inside there than when it's conditioned. So we have held off on installing those items, and we'll do so in the coming weeks once we get the space conditioned. These things are all strategic, scheduled to save cost remobilization charges. We're going to have some credits for those, and also to protect the work so that we don't have work that's damaged by humidity or temperature. We're looking at plans to mitigate potential weather delays. Now, April 27th is the current contract date, but since December 20th, we've realized 2 weeks of weather delays. We've not officially granted those to Turner, but that request is coming, and those are days every day that we have a weather impact, we grant those per the contract. So we're anticipating the next step is going to be that contract date is going to be, mid-May. So what we're doing is we're looking at a number of plans to mitigate potential weather days and also pick up time on the schedule. We've had 1 or 2 meetings a week over the last couple weeks working with Turner and the subcontractors to see what can be done to pick up time so that we can mitigate anything further from a weather standpoint or pick up time and move the date forward. That includes Saturday work. We would need we would need to go to council to prove that. And as I think we did we had a Saturday work plan with a noise waiver during November and December for the gym. Looking at double shifts with certain subcontractor crews for the trades building that deck structure and elevator structure. And also the most recent one we've come up with is temporary protection so that we could actually build a few temporary walls to occupy before we actually finish some of that exterior work. So we're looking at a number of things. We have another meeting next Wednesday. The whole point of this is to put together some kind of cost-benefit analysis to see does it make sense to do some of these things which do have costs in order to pick up time or to provide a insurance policy against weather. We're about a third of the way through what has been so far a pretty rainy season, and so we are anticipating that we are going to have further weather delays, especially since this whole deck, elevator, stair structure is exterior work. So we're working towards those. I update the city and the superintendent at our weekly meetings, and we'll continue to do so, and also be able to report back to this group at our next board presentation, and show you what our options are and what the best recommendation is. Change order report, again, this is something that I also did report to city schools. I wanted to do a check-in at this point in the project where we are about 2/3 complete in terms of how we're doing against change orders.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you go back to the last slide and just, rather than wait to the end and come back to it? Do you have a current kind of weather delay? I think May 3rd was maybe the last one you gave us last time.
No, we have about 2 weeks of what we've granted 15 weather days since the 20th of December.
Okay.
And so we've not yet received it from, those days are agreed to every day that they occur. We haven't received the formal request, but we are anticipating a formal request to extend the building D contract date by about 2 weeks.
Meaning extend it beyond April 27th.
Right.
Okay.
We have not received it yet, and the reason we haven't received it is because rather than wait to receive that, I've tasked the team, hey guys, let's roll our sleeves up and look at what we can do to bring time back up to mitigate that.
All right. So
Okay.
you think you might be able to knock that back?
Yeah, it depends. All of these have some cost implications. It's really, like I said, cost benefit. Like, does it make sense to pay X dollars to pick up Y days and that sort of thing? So we're taking a look at that. Now, some of these Turner may say, hey, we've agreed to get this subcontractor to do double shifts at no cost. I've had that occur before when there are laborers available. So we don't know about that yet, but we're looking into it. I'd like to get a plan and options done and discussed by the end of next week, so we can determine if we want to take any of these options or what the issues
So
are.
by the next board meeting, do you anticipate being able to have a firmer date?
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, other than unanticipated rain, we don't know what the weather's going to be past that. But I think really a plan together to really try and focus in on what the optimum schedule is. I want to point out, in addition to this, we're starting all of our move coordination activities with faculty and staff, and that input is actually helping us look at and see what alternatives make sense as well.
And you say we're about 15 additional days.
Correct.
At this point in time, a third of the way through the season, does that mean we're going to see another 30? If we continue at this rate?
I don't believe anyone in this room can predict what that's going to be.
Of course not, although I think to the extent we can predict the weather, it's supposed to be as bad or rainier.
Well, the other thing is, right now,
January.
that deck structure is in the dirt phase, right? We're doing excavation for the caissons and for the elevator pit and all that. So it's in the dirt phase. So rainy days, you can't do work. As that structure completes, we're going to have less impact from a rainy day. And it's also, I might point out, not just a day that it rains, but when you're doing dirt work, if it's still wet, if it's not dried out, you got to wait till it dries out. So once we get the structure erected, if it rains, we would maybe have a rainy day might impact just for that day. Once we get things enclosed in, a rainy day might not impact us at all. So the further we get into it, the less impact the rain will have. Right now, every day it rains, and plus maybe the day after if it's a very heavy rain, impacts that site work because it's in the dirt right now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. That's
Okay.
helpful. Last question on this slide, the Saturday work, are you waiting to get,
No,
what are you
we're look-
waiting for to go to the city council?
We're looking
with?
to see if it makes sense to do that.
Okay.
There's premium time because we would be choosing to have them work Saturdays, which would be there's usually you pay for the half of the time and a half on it's labor only, not the contract work. It's usually a pretty effective way to do things. We want to see what that is. I think what we're looking at these options. So what's the best way to do this that helps mitigate any weather issues?
Right.
Okay. And I think we'll be making a recommendation to the city and the district. This is the plan that makes the most sense.
So that's still part of the plan that's still in process?
Correct.
But you think by our next board meeting, you'll have a firmer
Yes.
plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to check in on change orders. Now, those of you who are familiar with construction, a change order is a change in scope of work, which is a cost. What I wanted to do is we to keep track of not only what the original cost is that Turner's given us, but our final negotiated price. We are running right now at about 90% of when they give us a cost, we negotiate it down about 10%. But we put these in categories, and there are really basically 5 categories for change orders. The first is owner changes. When the city or district says, well, let's make a change, such as when we've changed the striping in the gym, for example. That's a cost that the city and district, the owner, is saying, well, we'd like to make the change, and then we get a cost for it. The other things are unforeseen conditions, and this is all of our, for example, our soil issues we had during the big soil operation we had about a year ago. Permit agency requirements. This is when an inspector or DSA, the Division of State Architect, makes a change. Design errors and omissions. This is when the drawings, the contract set of drawings that the price is based on, have something missing or incorrect. And then contractor's contingency. This is the contingency that Turner has within their contract is used for very specific things. Things what we call things that aren't bought out properly, clarifications, things like that from the contractor side. So what I've done here is we work on, our company works on many different building programs, bond programs for for K through 12 school districts, for community college school districts, et cetera. And we have a pretty detailed set of history and also their industry standards on where these should be. And it helps us when we're budgeting a project set what we should have for contingencies. So I wanted to check in and see how we're doing on the ECCL project versus the kind of industry standard that we've seen. And as I think everyone knows, or that most of you know, we have about a 7% contingency between the Turner contingency and owner contingency on this project for these sorts of things. So what the message here is that in most of these areas we're actually doing better than we would expect on the project. Unforeseen conditions, you'll see the first category, and I'd be happy to share any data with anybody who would like to see it. We'd expect to see on a job like this where we have one renovation project and a site with a lot of soil, about 2.5% of unforeseen condition change orders, 1% permit agency requirements, 2% design E&O, 1% contractor's contingency. What we're doing right now, and again, we're 2/3 through the project, but we're probably about 90% done with our change orders. We're at about 2.8% unforeseen conditions, 0.7 permit agency requirements, 1.2 design E&O, and 0.2% contractor's contingency. So we're actually doing pretty well for those categories. What this also means is if we're spending change order dollars, we're doing it on things that are benefiting the project. You don't want to spend your change order dollars on soil things and on permit agency, things that there's no real value to. You want to do things on like striping on the gym, the pool project, things of that nature that really benefit the project. So I think that's it's at this juncture we're very happy with these things. I mean, we could have had worse soil problems. We did not have that. We could have DSA is notorious for making changes because again we contracted with Turner before DSA approved the project, making significant changes. We didn't have those. We had some. So it's a good check-in at this juncture. We're doing really well against these categories of change that can cause change orders. Construction update. I'll go through this really quickly. Then I've got some photographs. The gym, locker rooms, and offices are complete and in operation. The pool adjacent rooms, concessions and fitness that had work in them related to the pool are just about done. The pool work itself is about 2/3 complete. High school interior work, again, the ceiling, flooring, doors, and wood case work, we've held off on those. Elevator stair deck work has started. Actually started this week. We finally had a nice dry week, so we can get moving on those foundation components. The community building A exterior walls are complete, interior walls are complete and painted, and all the MEP work is complete. So building A is about the same place as D's, that we've got flooring, casework, and things like that. The admin building B, the wood frame is complete. The mechanical electrical plumbing, that's MEP, and roofing are in progress. In fact, the MEP roughing is just about done. The roofing will be done at the end of this week. They've had a crew of about 20 guys up there today. The K-8 school structural work has been complete quite a while ago. Wall framing is about, I'd say, 90% complete, all the wall framing. And mechanical electrical plumbing is well underway. I would say that's about 2/3 complete. And weather permitting, we're going to roof that building next week. And once we roof that, that'll allow us to start closing the building in so we can do the interior work, which will be a great milestone. So we're our big weather thing right now is to make sure that building C it's dry enough to do the roofing next week. That's important. So some photographs. Also, I want to point out that I've got a few photographs here are updated from the version that was sent in the board packet, and Ms. Emery can forward that to you. I always like to put a few new photographs in or show the most recent progress. This is the exterior of building A. You can see it's complete now. In fact, there's some of those things, some of the painting, masking is off the windows now. The paint is incomplete inside. Again, you've got baseboard and base and flooring needs to be put in there. This is the large room in there. Painting is complete. Windows are complete. Ceiling and floor finishes remain. This is a view from the building B two-story lobby, which is some of our favorites, some of the folks on the team's favorite space. This is the large glass lobby that you'll see from San Pablo. This is from the top of the stairs looking out that two-story window to building A. Building B, you can see, actually, if you look carefully, you can see roofers up on the roof. And actually on the lower roof, you can see that's actually already roofed. And that kind of light gray material is the waterproofing and mesh for the stucco exterior. That's probably, I'd say, about a third to a half complete now. So we're getting pretty close to weather permitting and being able to close that building in and then finish the interior finishes. Again, there's a close-up of building B that shows the lath and paper that will receive the stucco and also the scaffolding that's all around that building. Inside, the framing is complete, and you can see, if you look carefully up at the ceiling, you can see ductwork that's in that corridor, as well as the first pieces of drywall, the white you see there on either side of that goes in alongside that MEP work. We have our plumbing roughed in. This is in the restrooms on the first floor, so that's all ready to, once the wall finishes go on, to then do the finished plumbing work, which is installing the fixtures. At Building D, the high school, the exterior is complete, except for, again, the two walls adjacent to the deck. You'll see the plywood is those operable windows that we're going to put in all at the same time. This is again along San Pablo. You'll see at the top center that is actually the wiring for the large lit ECCL sign, which will be going in pretty soon. Inside, the painting's complete. You can see that right there. Again, the flooring and the ceilings, as I mentioned, we're holding off on those intentionally. More painting. You can see ceiling and flooring needs to go in there, and also the wood doors. The outside of building C, the school, this is a photograph from today. You can see that framing is really almost complete. All the interior wall framing is about 99% complete. That's the scaffolding that will stay up as we put the exterior sheathing, which is the yellow board, and then windows and waterproofing and lath on for the plaster. Inside, this is inside the multi-use room. You can see that framing is all complete. If you look up at the ceiling, you'll see the little white. You'll see you can see sky through the deck. Weather permitting, that'll be roofed next week, and that'll be closed in when that again if we get good weather. So we're keeping an eye on that. This is again another example shows the wall framing inside the K-8 school. And the gym. So these photographs are from last week. This is the basketball practice. The girls team and boys team both kind of split the afternoon in there. So you can see this right here. They're using the gym every day. What this picture is for actually shows the bleachers. When the bleachers are folded up, you can see they spell out ECCL, and then when they're unfolded, you can still kind of see it. But this this shows the finished product of the gym floor. If we look back here, you can see the city logos in the corner. In the center, which is really hard to see, is the Spartans logo. So they're using that every day. Actually, they had an event with the Golden State Warriors, who have a school program this week, where they had school kids and Warriors players in the gym. That was kind of a lot of fun for the students. This actually shows a good shot showing how this is the exiting that we're required. This shows this is the exit path outside the gym and the construction fence that keeps people from the construction. Those black things you see here, that's temporary rainwater leaders to keep the rain off of this pathway. The permanent leaders need to go down into the drainage to the right, but we have our inspectors are watching to make sure that the site is safe for an occupied facility. It's very important that we are mindful of operating a gym with school kids and faculty and staff in the midst of an operating construction site. It's something we're acutely aware of. Every day we do a walk with the IORs to make sure that there are no issues that will be of risk to an operable facility. So now that we're in the mode of having people having occupancy while we have construction going on, it's very important to maintain a close eye on this. More photographs. This is the pool. This is the lockers inside the gym. These are restroom shots of the tile. We have all the tile. All the restrooms are done in A, D, and E now with the tile color scheme. And then this is the pool. The structural slab is complete. You see the pool is less deep than it was before. What's remaining here, you see they've got the reinforcing bar around the edge for our new drainage system. This again is the flush drainage system where the pool water is flush with the deck. When they get that in, they're going to do one more big pour of the finished pool concrete. So that again will be, after they do the gutter work, they'll go in and they'll do that finish. In the old days, you call that gunite. It's the actual finished plaster that you actually will be the pool surface. As I mentioned in the city schools meeting, we're very rapidly, in fact, we're very actively working on the move-in operations and maintenance modes here. Again, the furniture scope is complete, purchase in progress. All the furniture for Building E has been complete, and some of it's been installed. Security, AV, and data and telecom scope is confirmed, and that's in progress. The Turner scope is pretty much all in now. We're in the process of working on bidding out the district and city supplied items such as classroom monitors and other equipment. We are right now we have an RFP out to movers for movers. This is to do the moves from Santa Fe and Annie Yates. We've started our building systems commission and training process. Along with district facility staff and people from the city, we've done training for the gym systems so that they know how to operate those. We've had some hiccups, particularly with the scoreboard. The scoreboard has proven to be particularly challenging. It's the old scoreboard that we moved. So we've been kind of trying to work through the bugs on that, along with Pedro Jimenez, who's the city's recreation director. But we're trying to get that so it's up and working properly for basketball games. Programming meetings, this is actually how we program the space. We have a monthly program meeting where we work out, this is very important, this is the shared portion of the project where the city and district share the facilities. So we're working on how we program and schedule activities in the gym, for example. We have city activities and school activities, and we'll continue to do that. So those are now held on a monthly basis. It's a joint meeting with the district and city, and I imagine those will continue in some form indefinitely as the city and district jointly operate the project. We have a monthly operations and maintenance meeting where we talk about O&M, our training for the gym, and as we move into commissioning the systems for the building. Also, the city and district are starting to budget their capital replacement reserve and annual maintenance. These are dollars which the joint operating agreement, the JOA, requires both the city and district to have. And so our financial managers working with the district and cities folks to plan for those expenditures. And that is it for the report for this month.
On those last couple of items, who's in the programming meetings and who's in the operations and maintenance meetings?
The program meeting it's, for example, it's from the city side for the gym. It's been Mr. Menes who does all the community, the recreational facilities, and the athletic director and coaches from the district. It includes, as we move forward, we're bringing in the principals to start planning for those facilities. But right now, since it's mostly the gym, we focused on with the athletic department and the recreation department from the city. That's really who we're focusing on right now to program that gym. As we move towards opening more facilities up, we'll include more people.
And maybe this is a question for the superintendent, but when are we going to be having the principals and sort of expanding those meetings to look at more? Is there a schedule to figure that out?
Yes. Right now, besides these committee meetings that are just starting as part of the requirements of our JOA, we are having some very good planning meetings just in the beginning stages as well, and cabinet. And I may be part of our timeline. I think that Ms. McDonald and Ms. Dunn may have created. I'm not certain offhand, but that's my belief. And Ms. Dunn is nodding, so maybe I'm right on that one. And then I think that what we'll want to do is we may actually, I've been thinking about changing the time for some of our cabinet meetings so that we can make those available for the principals, because right now they're at a time that would be difficult for the principals to attend. We'll also be bringing the principals up to speed, the principal meetings that we have every 2 weeks. But I foresee that happening soon.
I forgot mentioning Ms. Dunn, who has been very actively involved in the program meetings as well for the Student-Based Health Center.
Got it. Yeah. And who's in the operations and maintenance meetings?
That's more for the facilities managers from both the district and city.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not really working with janitorial staff or custodial staff at this point for those facilities managers. The big thing now is planning for training. We've got to train them on building systems, so that they can operate those.
Mm-hmm. And you're meeting monthly, you said?
Yes.
The capital replacement reserve, those, I guess, meetings, or we actually, each party is sort of figuring out what their percentage is?
We were asked to take a look at what the projected figures are. We're just basically providing our expertise to help with those projections.
Okay, you're helping that process get started, it sounds like. Yeah. At what point do we actually start creating a capital replacement reserve?
And setting aside money.
Yeah.
My belief on this, from conversations with the city in the past and with legal, is that as soon as Turner construction is complete and turns everything over to us, that at that point we will need to, this will kick in from the JOA, and we'll need to start setting aside money on a yearly basis.
All right. Other questions? Mr.
I have
Murray?
a couple of questions. One being, going back to the weather-related items, which of those are critical path items? And then, as a supplement to that, what precautions or what directions did the Turner take regarding site prep, as far as lime treatment of the soil, as far as to mitigate delays?
So in terms of critical path, right now, for the high school, because that exterior structure, I mean, if that's impacted, when we grant a weather day, we actually have this matrix of each building and portion of the site, what's actually impacted. Because as you might imagine, if we're doing painting work inside building A and it rains, we can still do that. Whereas if we're doing pool work outside, that's impacted. So it's a complex question because certain weather days impact critical paths of certain parts of the work. We have 5 buildings and a site. We don't have one project. So each of those buildings has its own critical path. So when we grant a day, we grant, and when I talk about the days we have occurred, well, we've granted days, we've granted different weather days to different buildings. So when I said, that's why I said we've had about 2 weeks, but that will impact different buildings. Certain buildings will not have any weather impact. Certain things will have every day will impact that work. So we look at it per building because we don't want to just give days for the whole project because if they can work on building A doing painting, then there's no delay to that building. In terms of what we've done, we have done lime treatment is at the pads, and all the flat work is in the contract. We did some additional lime treatment in the community commons so we could work within that because we were doing, again, the utilities out of sequence. So we've done some additional work, and it's really helped tremendously. In fact, the site is really pretty stable from a weather standpoint. I've had other sites that are much more impacted. The big issues have been right now in the last couple of weeks is doing anything related to actual site work where you're directly impacted, such as the sidewalk at the gym, work at the pool, where you're actually working outside and doing site work. We've not been as impacted on, for example, the high school, the K through 8 school. We've actually picked a little bit of time up because, again, we're trying to pick up time from that DSA steel issue, so we've picked up some time there, even though it's been raining. They're ahead on framing, for example, by about 2 weeks on that school. So it depends. It's a complex question, but it depends on the building. But we've done some additional lime treatment which I think has been nominal cost and has really good benefit in terms of being able to work the site. We've been working closely with the city who enforces C3 compliance, which is stormwater, as well as what's called the Stormwater Pollution and Prevention Plan. They're the agency having jurisdiction. We have a third-party consultant, BKF, engineers, who is our what's called a QSP, qualified SWIP practitioner, who oversees and does inspections to make sure that we're in compliance with site management vis-a-vis water, and so we're doing a pretty good job managing the site. We would have weather impacts that were more substantial if we weren't doing some of these things.
Thank you. Other questions from board members? Okay. Public comment on this item. Mrs. Miles, please come up. Might be quick, but we still want you on the mic.
I'm just addressing what I heard in reference to the gym. So we have a brand-new state-of-the-art gym, and we're using old equipment for the scoreboard. So that I'm wondering, okay, so if this is supposed to be a new school and we have money that's funded, why are we using an old scoreboard in a brand-new gym?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Miles, for your question.
I actually don't know the answer to that because that was during the design process, which predates us. It's not the original scoreboard, I know that. It's a relatively new, it's about 15 years old, whereas the gym, the gym was built, it's not the original scoreboard from the 60s. I'm not sure why it was and it's perfectly fine. We've just had some glitches getting it to work properly.
And I can add to that.
I don't know the answer.
I'll just add the little bit that I know. What I recollect from former member Dice, I believe, is that there was possibly some sentimental value to some aspects of what was in place, and I think there was a desire from some alumni and staff maybe to hold on to some pieces. Now, Ms. Miles, we will, of course, evaluate that. I'm all for sentimental, but we're also for what works, and so we'll look at it.
Actually, Dr. Reeve, thank you. That scoreboard was donated. Again, it's not the original one. Was by, I think, a local trade union donated that, and it's got a donation plaque on it. And so it was felt that since that was in good operating, it operated fine when we moved out of the gym. But because that had been a donation by a trade union, we wanted to keep that scoreboard and maintain that, and because it had been a donation.
That's right. All right. I did have a question that the remote. Are we playing basketball? And if so,
Yes,
when?
we are
When
playing
have
basketball.
we had a game in there yet, or when? Is that
Yes, I
kinda-
don't know I don't know the results of the game, but we've had a couple games. But I think
Really?
both teams have had 2 games in there.
Really? Okay. Can we get that out to the broader community?
Yeah, absolutely. And today, this afternoon, you might not know it yet, but I sent you and City Council some pictures of the gym as with students playing, but I don't have the details of the games, but we'll get that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I meant let people know that
It's open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The broader school community.
Absolutely.
You know
Mhm.
that basketball games are happening at the gym. Great. Any other public comment? Oh yes, Ms. Sanchez, please come up to the mic.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent, and also teachers. I have a good question. In regard of I think some of us have a lot of questions and concerns about how is the division or how is the design of the schoolyard for the new project. How can we just take in consideration most of the division between the upper grades and the lower grades? Because I speak, personally, as a parent through, from the Unified School District in Emeryville, and also as just the voice of maybe some other teachers they have heard about it. And I would like to know how do you get the input for the design? Do you just have a comment from the public, from the parents? There was any survey or any just open forums where they can express this? So I'm just kind of like wanted to know if any of that was done before just to come into a specific conclusion in closure to the design, as you mentioned, about the gym and about other concerns.
I'll answer as best I can. That the design process included that the architects went through, and we've been on the project for about 1.5 years, and a lot of the design work was done 3-4 years ago. But there was a lot. My understanding is there was quite a bit of community involvement and discussions about this, and I would be happy to look into it further and kind of give you a better background. The architect is the best person to speak to this, but I know that there was a tremendous amount of community involvement in terms of the design of the school. What I can show you though is, if I go all the way back to that diagram, is what there are specific play areas for specific different age groups, and it's if you see where the letter A is, there is a very small play yard there for the very young children, for the pre-K kids, outside of the program space for Kinder Buddies right there. Beyond that, which is you can kind of see it in a green, there's a little kind of light green surround and some gray things. There's quite a large play structure that is for the, I think like the 1st and 2nd grade age children in that spot. That's specifically for that age group. Then in the community commons, which is that large trapezoidal space you see in the middle, that is intended for the older elementary grades. And I may not have the exact grades, but I think like 3, 4, 5 in that space. On the back side of the multi-use school, there's a specific area for the middle school grades, 6, 7, 8. And then there are basketball courts and other sport courts and a kind of an outdoor gathering space for the high school kids. So actually the outdoor players are zoned and very specific for those age groups. And I know that design was carefully thought out. Again, I know there was quite a bit of, as I understand it, I wasn't around, we weren't around then, and the architect could speak much better than I can to that. There was a lot of teacher, community, other inputs from the stakeholders in how those different spaces are designed and laid out.
And Mr. Baker, I'll add, if you don't mind, just for the community, that there is actually, I believe, more separation now from the smallest children when you consider how together our youngest children and our middle school students are at Annie Yates. There actually will be more separation on this campus because there's so much more space available for us.
They've been very thorough in making sure the kids are caged off from each other with crash bars and security cameras and, really visible for the supervisors at break time through the buildings. They can, kind of look through the window and see them on the other side. It's plenty more space for the kids to play around inside of enclosed spaces with cameras. It's a good plan.
Do we have any other public comment? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Baker, for the update. Superintendent, do you want to introduce the next item? And Miss Ash let me know she has to change a diaper, and she will.
Yes, thank you.
Be back as appropriate.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 6.3, an amendment to the lease of Santa Fe Elementary from the Oakland Unified School District. The purpose of this item is for the board to ask for your approval of the amendment of the lease between Emery Unified and Oakland Unified School District for our use of Santa Fe Elementary School until we can go ahead and transition our high school students into the new facility.
Do you want to clarify sort of what
we found out?
What we found out
Sure.
Based on our last
yeah, no, thank you. Thank you
discussion of
to
this?
Member Pats for discovering this on the Oakland website last time. Oakland had actually taken what we were aware of, and they had altered it and amended it a second time, and they have given us more time to some extent to be there. However, there are some financial penalties for the longer we stay in the building. So Oakland Unified, for good reason, really needs the space back. They have construction swing space that they need, but we were able to confirm the information on here. They had, I think they had left their previous cover sheet from the first version of this on their website, which caused the appearance of a conflict between the amount on that cover sheet and this. These are the right amounts. And we received further clarification from their lead attorney this afternoon that if we vacate the premises mid-month, that they will prorate.
Okay.
So that was some additional good news for us.
That was my one question.
Yes. I was
seems
trying to be ready. I always try to be ready for those.
Okay. We can leave early before June 1st. We're not tied to stay June 1st. And if we leave early, it can be at any point during the month, and it'll be prorated.
That's correct.
Okay. And the liquidated damages for overstaying our welcome past June 1st is the same as what we were looking at before, right? $5,000 a day.
Yes.
But before that was the price as of May 1st.
That's correct.
So this is an improvement on our what we were looking at last time. Any other questions for Superintendent Rubio on this item? Do we have any public comment on the Oakland lease item? Seeing none. Well, Ms. Ash is not back yet, but we can take a run at a motion. Do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
A second? I'll second. Roll call, please.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Yes.
President Affelt?
Yes. So the motion passes with 3 votes in favor and Ms. Ash absent. All right, we are now on to our last item, which we should have Ms. Ash present for the conversation.
Mrs. Tamer's going to check how see how she's doing.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to do board reports ahead of this item if Ms. Ash doesn't appear in the next 10 seconds. Would you like to move
Good.
to
So moved.
to hear board
I was
reports?
waiting your 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. I did give 10 seconds. I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion? Mr. Patz, should we do board reports momentarily?
I think we should just wait, but, you know, we can do board reports, that's fine.
Are you in favor of waiting?
Yes, that's what.
Okay, all right. So you're withdrawing your motion?
Yes, I
All
will
right.
withdraw my motion.
All right. Why don't we adjourn for 5 minutes, and then we will re-adjourn. Thanks. We are on to our last discussion item of the evening, which is the appointment of a provisional board trustee. My thinking on how to proceed was to see, we have 3 of our candidates here tonight who have been kind enough to make themselves available in the event that the board had further questions of them. So my thought was to see what the board's pleasure is, if they do want to ask any further questions of any of the candidates, and if we do, then we'll sequester the others. And if not, or if they do, and when we conclude the additional questioning period, then take public comment, and then go into board discussion on whether or not we can reach some agreement on who to appoint. So that's my proposal. A question period, public comment, and a discussion period. Is that? Okay, Mr. Pat seems to be shaking his head as well. All right, so the question then is, do board members have additional questions that they would like to ask any of the board member, or sorry, any of the board candidates? Or are you ready to proceed to public comment and discussion?
I'd suggest proceed to public comment.
Okay, so Mr. Merriam is ready to go.
I don't have any.
Mr. Patz?
I'm okay to move to public comment.
Okay. All right, I think I'm in a similar situation and not sensing otherwise from the board. Then I think the candidates can stay and witness as part of the meeting, and or as members of the public make public comments if you want. So do we have any public comment on this item regarding appointment of provisional board trustees? Ms. Miles?
Good afternoon, board again. Audrey Miles, Anna Yates, Elementary TK. As a previous board member, one of the things I said to our board was that I was hoping that whatever board member that you chose would be someone who would be about bringing our board together cohesively and working together to put children first. And because we know that lately we've had some contentiousness on the board, and we're hoping that as a teacher, that the person that you bring to the board not just has an agenda to spread their own agenda. It is about supporting children. It is about supporting teachers. Hopefully that person is someone in our community that is going to add a different layer to the board and provide a varied opinion, which is something I think that we need in order to have our board move forward. This is the year 2016. I'm hoping that that means that we will work together as a team. I think the last time that I was here, I talked about when the head doesn't work, the body doesn't function. And so if our board is being contentious with each other and not working together and having their own agendas, that it filters down to your teachers and your staff, and things don't get done. And so I see that one of the things I see that we have a young person who is also a member of our community who went through our schools. I think it's wonderful that we have Brittany, who is a member of our community who went through Emery schools, adds a different layer as a young person to represent the school board, to look at teachers, to look at students, and add maybe a different layer to the board that we need in order to move forward when moving to the ECCL. So I'm hoping that she's considered for the board position.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. Other public comment?
Good evening, Board. My name is Joshua Simon, a former school board member and a member of the Citizens Oversight Committee looking over the ECCL. I want to in part echo Ms. Miles' comments about this is, as you know, a very important decision. Every board, we went through, I think, 6 or 7 board changes in the 13 years that I was on the board. And each time we picked a new board member, the critical issue that we considered was in part the chemistry, because each board member brings a different set of skills. The one thing that all of our board members always had, and I believe this board does as well, is that the needs of the kids came first, and that at the end of the day, whatever differences we had, we would come to a decision, and then we would all stand together as a board behind that decision for the sake of the kids, the teachers, and for having a unified school district that would put the service of kids first. So it was not the disagreements between adults that would govern. And looking at, to what degree does the new person coming in add to that chemistry as the board? Every board has a chemistry. And I know that you're looking at this, but I think it's worth saying. I think, I'm thankful that we have so many applicants. When I was on the school board, we were lucky to have 1 or 2. So I congratulate you. I think it speaks a lot towards how far Emery has come, that there are so many applicants and that there's such a wide range of applicants. So I'm looking forward to your discussion. I won't presume to know what's best for your board, because you know your chemistry better than anyone else, and you have some good options. So thank you. I look forward to hearing the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Good to see you. Other public comment? Okay. Seeing no other public comment, then we will move to discussion of the appointment of a provisional board member. I guess one way to start is to ask if folks, having now had a week or almost a week, have thought about things further. If anyone wants to volunteer to start us off, reiterate your prior thinking, or indicate that you've thinking somewhat differently. Okay, well, seeing no immediate takers, I can start off. I have reached out and spoken and met with each of the candidates so that I could have some one-on-one time and get to know folks a little better. And I have to say I feel better about all of the candidates, having done that, actually. And you know, could see working with the different candidates in different ways, in productive ways with all the candidates. And I see real strengths that are out there in what each of our applicants have offered. And nobody has all of the same thing. But I think we do have some real thoughtful, interested individuals who really could help the district in different ways. That said, I have not. I feel better about all the candidates, but I have not changed my order. I guess I probably have changed my comfort level with other options, but my order remains the same, and I would continue to favor Brittany Collins Rogers as our next appointment as my top candidate, with Gowdy Sanchez as a second candidate, and then Mr. Carver, and then Mr. Bukowski would be the order. I think that starting with Mr. Carver, I think I was very appreciative of his comments about working together as a board and how one assumes the best intentions of the people that you're working with and trying to work together in a positive way that's productive. And I think he's probably the most similar to me of the candidates in that he's a lawyer. He weighs things. He wants to see the evidence. He wants to be balanced, and so I really connect with him on that level. Ms. Sanchez, I think, is I've seen her for years coming to school with her daughter and her husband, because they usually would come together. But I had never actually had the opportunity to have a conversation with her. And I think we did have some difficulty following her and understanding her in some of her presentation last week. And I do think that is a function of her not being a native English speaker. But she, I think, is articulate and a very thoughtful person, and has a really excellent background that we could benefit from. She has a master's in international marketing communications master's from Madrid, and is very much interested in the marketing and the technology and improving district communication, and has a lot of energy and outreach thoughts about how to improve the parent engagement. And whatever happens tonight, I don't want to lose that energy and that connection. And I think a personal energy and charisma that that many of us, other than Joy, lack up here. That would be helpful addition to the district in our work and in our interface with the community. I do still, as I said, favor Brittany Collins Rogers for many of the reasons that Ms. Miles indicated. I mean, I think we have a student who's gone through our system, who knows our system from the inside, who knows our teachers, and who is a recent graduate. And she wasn't just any graduate. She was the president of the ASB. She was a member of the City Schools Committee. And she has been a leader in our as a student, and we tell our students, well, if be a leader, and we will listen to you and raise your voice. And then if they do that, and then they go off and they be a success and they get a college degree, and then they come back to town and say, I want to give back, and we say, well, you're not ready yet. I think that sends the wrong message. And I think the board does not have sufficient representation of the high school and what's going on at the high school and the students at the high school. And yeah, we have conversations and we go there and we get reports and things, but I think that Ms. Collins Rogers could bring an immediacy that we don't currently have. And I think I feel connected to Annie Yates, and I feel I can bring that. Mr. Patz is, well, he doesn't have a child at Annie Yates. He is in that community and in regular conversations with parents and teachers there. I don't feel we have that as immediate a connection on the board with the high school. And I think that's an important gap that we need to fill. As I also said last time, I mean, we have a district that is 55% African American, and I think it is only an additional attractiveness to me to be appointing have a board member who's also African American, and not just because of the color of someone's skin, but because of the experience that they have lived growing up in this community as an African American and going through our schools. And I think that is an expertise and an experience that we could use. So I would continue to support the candidates in that order. Other thoughts? Oh, let me just say one more thing on Ms. Collins Rogers. I think she did not have a very good interview last week. I think she was very nervous, and this was a completely new and more challenging, probably, interview public process than she was even expecting herself. As Mr. Pat said, her written application, the content was excellent, and I think we should not hold it against her for being young and inexperienced. I think we should give her the opportunity and support to be the leader that she can be. And I don't think you get elected president by your peers or being asked to be in city schools if you're not, you know, capable of working on a board and being a leader and being a public person. So I do think that was an issue, and I as part of her interview process, but I guess that is how I come down. And I talked to Ms. Collins-Rogers about that, and I think, you know, she acknowledged that that was a surprise for her. That's not how she's performed in public before, but there you have it. So, you know, I think in my own job, I can think of at least two people who came to interview, and I would not have called them back, and I would not have hired them. But because they didn't have a very good interview, and other people in the organization convinced me, no, you know, I see something here. Let's give them a second try, and I'm really glad I did in both of those instances, because both of those people ended up working as close colleagues for 10 years or more. So, any event, I think I wouldn't judge the whole person by one interview. I think we need to look at the whole experience in the application as a whole.
I think Don and I are waiting for each other to go, and we'll keep quiet the whole night waiting for that. So I appreciate a lot of what you had to say there, because I don't disagree with it, and I don't think I did at the last meeting. I asked you to sort of dig a little deeper, and I'm glad that you have. You know, the experience is exactly spot on. I do think a person's experience really shapes who they are, and is a voice that we desperately need on this board. But again, I look at the people who came up and spoke this evening, and I think a lot about what they've said, and you know, I think about where we are in the process, and it's interesting to me when and where people choose to show up. Many a nights we sit out here staring at empty chairs, and I'm always curious. So if we're looking at that complete package, when I spoke with Brittany today, that was one of the things that I mentioned is, you know, there's a continuance. It's not just at the end of high school and you go off to college, but there is sort of this being involved in the community of, you know, we have committees, we have, you know, planning meetings. We've had a lot of things going on, and you know, when I look at the candidates, it speaks well to Ken's experience, but it also speaks well to Mr. Carver's experience. You know, and I think it'd be important to have somebody with a legal background on the board. I think there's no discounting that. You know, so when I look at the whole picture, I agree with you. Youth and inexperience are not automatic disqualifiers. But I asked myself, what was the rubric, or what was the criteria? And maybe we set up the process inappropriately. Maybe we really needed to look beyond the interview process, but that was supposed to be our metric, our come in and interview. You know, you apply, the applications screen you to an interview, and the interview is the way we go. But even looking at the totality, you know, I missed the connection with the high school. I realized she graduated, but it's a few years ago, and you know, we have a student representative, and I think she's moved beyond that and has a much richer experience in the professional world. To think of her as a link to the student world. I look at, you know, the planning process, where we've been, what we've gone through, and I don't know how much of that was captured by, you know, Ken, Ms. Sanchez, or Brittany, and I apologize if I'm using first versus last names. I am terrible at remembering names, and so it's just the way my brain is wired. And so, you know, I look at those things, and I still think about, in total, you know, and again, I live in a different world. If we hire somebody, they have a job almost for life at that point. And so if you don't clear that first bar, you're not in, because it is difficult to remove public employees. So I screen and I am only, in the merit system, only allowed to use the interview as my guide. And so my rubric is different than yours. But again, other than talking to people, talking to Brittany and to Ken and to Brian, I unfortunately did not have a chance to talk with since I didn't realize first name, Gowdy. I would have liked to have other than moving Ken to 4th place from 3rd, my rankings have not changed. I still think Mr. Carver brings in that level of experience, that level of knowledge. He has kids in Anna Yates as we speak, who are transitioning up in age. And that just, is an overwhelming plus for a person. And then I thought about it, one of our biggest jobs is to hire or to oversee hiring for the district. At what level would we bring somebody in? When we talked about the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board, we're the check of the superintendent. And while I think Brittany would make an excellent teacher, and I will reach out to you because I feel like we need more great teachers at the school, she's not ready to be the administrator, right, or the superintendent, whereas people with more experience are. And so where we fall on that scale, we're at the very high end. And so, experience does matter, both growing up, but also in your career. So again, my order, other than moving Ken to the bottom, has not changed upon a second viewing of the interviews.
I agree with so much of what each of you have already said, but in my own process over the last week with minimal sleep and a slight distraction, I went back and I read the applications. I tried to watch as much of the interviews as I could in between diaper changes. But listening to what each of you said and what some of the public comment was this evening, two things kind of strike me. And that if I had, when I joined the board at, I think it was 28 or 29, if I had to sit down and do an interview like that, I would have failed miserably. It would not have been a good showing. And the first year I sat on the board, I sat in a lot of silence. I didn't speak up a lot. And I did a lot of crying. But, and I hope that over the last few years, I think I've brought something to the board. So I do think it's a little unfair to base it completely on that. And so that sticks out very clearly in my head. And then what Josh said about chemistry also spoke loudly to me. And based on past experiences, and with all of what I just said, I still think that Brittany would be who I would choose to join for various reasons that I don't need to repeat because they've been said. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, as I can repeat or say the same thing as my fellow board members. I did too take time and go back and review and just contemplate on this decision. And it's a very tough decision to support or give your vote to somebody that through various means, through written and oral presentations, comes to you and says they're interested. And that's a very, very good sign of our process that we deal with. And I commend every candidate that did attempt or did provide that experience. With that being said, I did have a change of heart on my process and my decision. I thought over the period of time that I had a chance to think that we do need a, basically, I want to say, maybe a new way of thinking, maybe new opportunity. And with that in mind, my support would be towards to Ms. Collins Rogers in doing so to become a member of this board. I think she brings a different perspective, I know through the interview process and plus the written application. In totality, although I think the written was so much better than the oral, but here again, it's a complete package when it comes to addressing and stating things that were asked of her. So I commend her and her efforts. With that being said, I think we need to strike a balance and to show that we have the opportunity to let a person of the community from a different viewpoint be a part of this board. I think it's very important that it does happen. We sit here and we can address concerns through staff, students, teachers, administrative portion, and the community in a whole. I think we really need to have another voice from maybe something that we've never really considered. So I'm willing to give the opportunity to Ms. Collins Rogers to join the board.
So, I'm curious how you jumped her from third to first on your list, because I'd like to hear that process.
I had a chance to discuss some topics with her. She reached out, and I did have a chance to talk to her. She was composed. She answered, and she presented herself very well in that venue. So I felt comfortable with that discussion that I had with her.
Yeah, I had that same experience. I'm glad to hear that she was able to get a hold of you and have that conversation, because I very much had that same experience of a one-on-one, her composure and the setting really dramatically changing her responses. So I'm glad to hear that.
So, unless the board feels there's need for further conversation, it seems as if we've reached at least a point where majority of the board is in favor of one particular candidate, and that I don't think we need to take public comment at this point, but I'm willing to. If there's any member of the public who wants to. Okay, do we have a motion on the appointment of a provisional board member? And we should be clear, whoever gets appointed tonight is only appointed till November, and that individual wants to continue to serve on the board. He or she needs to run and be elected by the public. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ash?
Yes.
Member Merriam?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Yes.
President Affelt?
Yes, and I think the motion that you moved on was to appoint Brittany Collins Rogers?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, well, I want to thank the board for a thoughtful conversation and a process, and I appreciate the fact that we were able to reach unanimity after some thinking, and I again want to thank the candidates for putting yourselves out there, which is not always an easy thing to do in a public process, I know all of the board members want to continue to tap into your energies to make our district stronger, because it takes more than 5 people up here to do that. So thank you. All right, at this point, then, we move to board reports and announcements. Are there any board reports or announcements?
I will not be, President Affel, I will not be in attendance next week, next board meeting, which is the 13th of, or
Or 14th? It's February 10th.
February 10th, I'm sorry. I will not be in attendance.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. Any other board reports or announcements? Okay, calendar review, please.
Yes, our next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is February the 10th. I want to let everyone know that the dismissal hearing for February 1st and 2nd for the board will not be occurring. That's been rescheduled, and I'll give the board some information in closed session about that. Just make sure you mark your calendars that you do not need to be available on February 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
And that's all I have. School is closed the week of February 15th.
Member
Sorry,
Pat, seemed like you have something.
I feel like we didn't take a moment to say congratulations to Ms. Collins Rogers.
Congratulations.
Sort of
Ms.
feel like we
Contra.
should have taken a moment there. So,
And we will swear you in at the next board meeting, which is February 10th. Okay, thank you. But you are officially appointed, and this meeting is adjourned. The closed session.